Kamala Harris's ancestry is rich and complex, forming a tapestry full of cultural heritage. Her father, Donald Harris, hails from Jamaica, of mixed Indian and Irish origin. He moved to the United States to further his education, eventually graduating in economics. Through this lineage, Donald traces back to the Irish roots of his ancestors who came to Jamaica, which had been part of England, from Ireland. Significantly, he has revealed that his line leads back to Hamilton Brown, an Irish slave owner of high prominence in the colonial history of Jamaica. This interlinks Harris's family story through the tracks of a slave owner and raises complex facets to the diverse and often painful histories that intertwine in her identity. The family background is uniquely generative from its blend of cultures, but Harris has often posited more simplified storylines to appeal to her political base. Critics argue that this oversimplification is part of a larger trend in partial truth-telling. Commentator Candace Owens, while investigating, has pointed out that Kamala tends to emphasize her so-called African-American heritage, but glosses over the complications surrounding her Jamaican roots. In this regard, Owens argues that such selective emphasis is a strategic move to connect more closely with voters, particularly during her presidential campaign, and to construct a relatable narrative aimed at engaging her target audience. More recently, Donald Harris has publicly weighed in on the nature of his ancestry, touting a rich multicultural heritage of which he is proud. He is often quoted as saying that one needs to expose the various identities. In this case, his Jamaican reality is linked with those from India as well as Ireland. Conversely, such depth is seldom represented in Kamala Harris's political speeches, raising questions about the authenticity of her narrative. The Indian-Irish ancestry of her father tends to get very little foregrounding in the narrative. While her father is of Indian-Irish descent, this aspect is mostly kept in the background and not probed throughout her identity development. Donald Harris is quite open about his history and those of his family members. However, these facts rarely find mention in Kamala's political speeches or public presentations. By downplaying these aspects of her heritage, she risks alienating segments of the electorate who might otherwise appreciate a much more complex narrative that captures the richness of her background. This sort of selective storytelling raises important questions about authenticity and how far politicians will go to create an image that voters can relate to. In fact, it is this duality of her father's heritage, being both Indian and Irish, that could have contributed to a much better understanding of Kamala Harris.